Check out LowryDrug.com or call 704-873-2247. Lowry Drug, your hometown source since 1959. Across from Iredell Memorial Hospital, we are worth the drive. Come see us.
Well, good afternoon, Lake Norman, and welcome to Town Talk. We're coming to you live from WSIC, the Real Talk Studio, nestled on the banks of beautiful Lake Norman. Streaming worldwide from Ocho Rios, Jamaica, to Smyrna, South Carolina, population 58. I'm your host, Bill Russell, President of Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce, the largest chamber of commerce in the Charlotte region. My guests today are Mayor Christy Clark from the town of Huntersville, Anthony Roberts, our town manager, and my producer, Bill Blakely. Bill, you ever heard of Smyrna?
I feel like I've driven through it. Now, I'm more familiar with Smyrna, Georgia.
Smyrna is in York County, South Carolina. Really small town, 58 people. As a matter of fact, they have Moore's lawnmower and repair and tax service. So you can actually go get your lawnmower repaired and get your taxes done at the same time. It's really kind of small town. They also, it's the Tri-Cities JCs. The way I know Smyrna is Tri-Cities JCs, which was Smyrna, Hickory Grove, and Sharon. They cooked hash there. You ever had hash? You know what hash is?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so hash is like a shredded beef. It's got butter in it. It's got onion in it. They were having Hopewell days for 100 years there, at least before COVID. 1,500 pounds of hash was produced. Could you get into some hash, Bill?
I could definitely step into some hash, yes.
It's sort of like, and those parts, the Hopewell Hash Day was very much like our Mallard Creek barbecue. And I know you were at Mallard Creek.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I've been there.
How many times did you attend Mallard Creek?
I've been there twice.
Twice?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Aunt?
Oh, I've had it a couple times over the years for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Always a good time. My cousin one of my cousins actually, once a month does barbecue and also does hash. So, Bill, I'll bring some hash in here and you and Justin can sample that.
I would look forward to it. Thank you.
On a little bit of a remorseful note, earlier this week, we lost someone in Huntersville, Linda Gift, who was at one point what I call the guidance counselor, North Mecklenburg High School. She was career technical advisor, worked very closely with the Chamber of Commerce on career days, would work with us on our TED. We had a scholarship for Ted Solomon that we would provide to a North Mecklenburg High School student or any of our high schools. And Linda finally succumbed to Alzheimer's, but want to remember her, Greg, Joey, who's in my Action Club. Remember them in our prayers. Christy, you were, before you got this particular role, a guest teacher for Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools. What is a guest teacher, and was there a particular grade?
Yeah, so at guest teacher is different at every school, but at my school, the two of us, we are there to assist in classrooms and with students that have maybe need a little extra love or attention. And so we get assigned to those one-on-one and do those. We're also substitute if a teacher's out, since we're familiar with all the classrooms and all the curriculums and everything. So I'm still working there, and right now I'm in second grade, and I'm assigned one-on-one to a student who has some special needs and just needs a one-on-one person with them. And it's a really great place. You cannot beat working at an elementary school. It is 900 kids that give you hugs every day, and they were all pretty excited when I was elected to be mayor, and they all refer to me as Mayor Clark instead of Mrs. Clark now. So it's it's a really rewarding thing to do, and just to be there to assist with kids that need help and teachers that need help.
Is there a subject that you teach?
Well, second grade, elementary schools, all the grades are in one. So my favorite, of course, would be literacy because I was an English major. But I've taught all the things, math, science, and everything. PE, I've subbed for PE, and technology, which is the computer lab. I subbed in the media center. So, you get to do all the things when you're a guest teacher. It's a lot of fun.
How long have you been doing that?
I started in November of 2021, so we were still in the kind of heavy part of COVID at that time, still masking. And that's when we really needed subs in schools because, the people who had been subbing in the past were kind of reluctant to do that because for obvious reasons. And so the, CMS hired a bunch of guest teachers to help fill in. And, that's kind of where we rolled in. And at that time, I would take over a classroom for like 2 weeks while a teacher was out with COVID. And, that was... so I learned a lot quickly, but it's a great place to be.
Did you have to have a teacher certification to be a guest teacher?
You don't. You get paid more if you do. But I would never be put in charge of a thing that a certified teacher would be responsible for. So I act more as a general sub, like any other sub that would come in. But have been there a long time now, so I've been through the curriculum in almost every grade, and I'm familiar with what's going on in almost every classroom. So.
And where did you go to college?
I went to Roanoke College in Salem, Virginia. I'm from Roanoke, Virginia, and so I went there not too far away. And, as I mentioned, I was an English major, and that's my area of interest. I'm still a literacy nerd, so I always have at least one or two books going.
Anthony, you're a Virginia guy, right?
I am.
Did you go to University of Virginia? Where'd you go? I know you're a Virginia guy.
Bill, I wasn't smart enough to go to UVA.
That's not true.
Grew up, rural Virginia, and so UVA was sort of my thing. And, of course, I almost had to fight my younger brother because he went to Virginia Tech to play football. So, they're like arch rivals. So, but I've always been a UVA fan, but actually ended up, went to Lewisburg College, a 2-year college outside of Raleigh. And then from there, I ended up at UNC Charlotte and stayed here ever since. Got my 4-year degree and master's at UNC Charlotte and never left.
What was the town you grew up in?
Well, town, we'll say Crossroads.
Crossroads.
Crossroads, so this is how I got my NFL affiliation. The town was Dolphin, as in the fish, Dolphin, Virginia. So as a little kid, made sense to probably root for the Miami Dolphins. Not a lot to root for here lately, but so the nearest town was Lawrenceville, Virginia.
Right.
Emporia, South Hill was probably the next two, closest towns, but it was very rural, tobacco farmer. So got 18, I said, maybe I need to go get an education, and I decided to get an education and leave the tobacco farming to someone else.
My ex-wife, who I affectionately refer to as plaintiff number 1, there was a plaintiff number 2 too, but she was from, her family was from Bracy, Virginia. You know Bracy?
Right there beside South Hill.
Yeah,
very close.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where her folks were from. You founded a law with the partnership with your husband. You founded a law firm here in Huntersville.
Yep.
With Chris. What kind of practice was it?
Sure.
Or is it?
It still is, yeah. So when I transitioned out of being a stay-at-home mom, I went to Duke University and got a certificate to be a paralegal, and so went to work with him. And so we founded that law firm. We primarily do business and corporate law and trademark law. And then since I have since left, since I was in the General Assembly, he also has a whole branch of the law firm that is dedicated to disc golf. And so there's a lot going on with that, with the foundation and representing professional disc golf players and various things that I don't know much about because I don't play disc golf, but we have a whole branch of disc golf.law as well. My specialty when I was there was focusing on forming corporations with the Secretary of State and filing trademark applications. And so that's kind of, we used to have a law firm or be a part of a law firm in Ballantyne. And that was when 77 was under construction. And we very quickly realized we were going to either die, either it was killing our souls or we were going to die on the roadway. And we decided to move our law firm up here. So right now it's based in Cornelius and right above 131 Main and has a thriving law firm over there.
We've got about 30 seconds left. How big is the firm?
There are currently 2 full-time lawyers and about 6 support staff.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about your role and House District 98. That's kind of where you cut your teeth in terms of politics. And so we're going to come back and talk about that. And we're going to talk about some development and other issues facing Huntersville. Come back and see us on Town Talk. Mayor, we are streaming live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and Twitter. This is supposed to be it's X, but I can't really get my hands around the whole Xing thing.
Sure.
But we're still live, and so we're talking about some Chamber of Commerce activities. But the firm, I didn't realize the firm. I thought it was in Huntersville, but it's actually here in Cornelius.
Yep.
And you said over at 131. How do they? If I smelled that hickory smoke every day at 131, because when you drive in there and you smell that, man, I tell you what, you just want to go into 131 and park right
There
there.
would be no work.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, the staff at 131 Main know the orders of all of the law firm employees, what they want. And my husband has a specialty that he likes. Well, he calls it, I think he calls it like the Oahu or the Hawaiian steak, but it's a steak that's been marinated in pineapple juice and really big. And so that's his favorite. And so sometimes he'll go there for lunch and bring me the leftovers for dinner. So
Joe Douglas and his staff do a great job with that.
they do.
Last year, the Chamber of Commerce in 2023, we had 52 ribbon cuttings.
That's awesome.
52 ribbon cuttings, 33 professional development seminars, 98 networking events. We had 2 networking events a week with the Chamber of Commerce. It was just an amazing year. Tomorrow, Thursday, January 19th, 3 o'clock to 4:30, we got David Dowdy. He's with Action Coach. And we're going to be talking about goal setting in 2024. Most people should have their goals. You set your goals in July. You set the town goals way back then in terms of what you're going to accomplish. But most people, here we are in getting into the second, third week of January, they don't yet have their 2024 goals. So David Dowdy is going to be getting together with us, talking about getting clarity and getting unstuck. That's going to be at the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce tomorrow, 3 to 4:30. You can find out more information on our website. We do ask you to RSVP. For those of you streaming with us, we're going back live on the radios in just a couple of seconds. We thank you for joining us on live, and thank you for being on Town Talk today.
The News Drive at 5, and the Scoreboard. Each show gives you your chance to win. The Greater Charlotte Home and Garden Show, February 23rd through the 25th. The Charlotte Home and Remodeling Show, January 26th through the 28th. Have an event you'd like to tell people about? Yard sales, estate sales, and everything in between? Visit WSICnews.com and click on events to submit your event today.
Now more Town Talk with Lake Norman Chamber President Bill Russell on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC. Local starts here.
Welcome back to Town Talk. I'm your host, Bill Russell. Today we have Christy Clark. She is our mayor for the town of Huntersville. Anthony Roberts, who is our town manager with the town. Christy, you started off your career House Seat District 98. What enticed you to run for the House Seat 98?
Sure, yeah. So I was involved with an organization called Moms Demand Action, and that's an organization that works to end gun violence through policy change. So I spent a lot of time in Raleigh talking to legislators, meeting legislators, and kind of saw how the place ran and kind of got the bug and really wanted to become a part of that organization. And so when maps were redrawn and it was something that might be possible, I threw my hat in the ring.
And when we're talking about the 98, and what region does 98 incorporate?
98 is all of Davidson, all of Cornelius, and most of Huntersville, depending on the year that you look at the calendar. I think right now it's most of Huntersville still.
You just brought up gun control. I was looking at the bills, some of the bills that you sponsored over the course of the 2 years that you were there. A lot of gun violence bills. You had the register assault weapon. You had permit assault weapon, long gun, various things. A lot of interest with you, passionate about gun control. Why? Why is gun control an issue for you?
Yeah, so, in 2012, when the Sandy Hook shooting happened, my youngest child was also in first grade. And so watching those kids be evacuated from the school at Sandy Hook really hit home for me. And so I just looked for a place to get involved and found Moms Demand Action. It was being founded right at that same time. And over the time, I got to know a lot of survivors of gun violence, whether it was a person, a mom who lost a child, or, parents, or different things, and really connected with that part of the organization and wanted to be involved to help them find a way to change gun laws so that another family would never have to experience what they went through.
It might have been 2021 or 2022. I can't recall, but I'm riding down the road, listening to the radio because I'm into talk radio. That's just what I do. I don't listen to a lot of tunes. I love listening to WSIC and hearing some of the guest commentators. But I'm riding down the road and I'm hearing them talk about how a person in Huntersville was disappointed that Harris Teeter Kroger was stocking koozies that had I think it was something. It was around 4th of July, so the koozies had guns on them, and we were talking about removing them from Harris Teeter and Kroger, and they did. They did remove them. My question, though, is really, why not let the market settle that. Because if I'm going in Harris Teeter and there's products on the shelf and I don't care anything about them, or maybe I'm even offended by them. If people aren't buying them, well then they're not going to continue to sell them. Why
Sure.
why not let the market settle that?
Sure. When that situation happened, there had been a shooting in a grocery store, I think in Pennsylvania, like the week before, maybe in a few days beforehand. So, to the folks who kind of asked me to get involved, that was shocking to them just because they felt like it was out of place and sort of insensitive, as folks were, every time we have a shooting in a school or a church or a movie theater, and everyone's kind of reluctant to go to that place after that happened, no matter where it happened. And so folks reach out to me, and I think that's kind of where it started. But it's also part of like gun culture and like sort of that way of like reframing how we think about gun safety and thinking about it in terms of, guns are great for hunting and for personal safety, but do they need to be in the grocery store or everywhere? And that's kind of where that comes from. That's kind of a larger scale issue, but really it's about, for me, it's about being sensitive to people's, issues and concerns and experience, even with gun violence. If they've lost someone to gun violence, running into a gun in a place they don't expect it can be traumatizing.
I certainly would understand if it was in Pennsylvania, you said.
Hmm.
I certainly would understand not having that in a grocery store in Pennsylvania, but that we're not in Pennsylvania, so that wasn't really coming up here. And it would just strike me that why is that an issue for North Mecklenburg? I was thinking, Anthony, I'm a big South Carolina fan, and if I went into Connie Cross's place at Uncommon Sense and 85% of the merchandise was Clemson, I probably wouldn't frequent there very often. But the fact of the matter is, as long as she's selling it, as long as there's demand for it, well, so be it. But in terms of product at a grocery store, as long as people are buying it, why should we tell grocery stores or any business they can't sell that?
Yeah, and of course, we're never telling, we're always asking. But the great part about that situation was those particular koozies were put there by a vendor without the grocery store's permission. And so they didn't even know they were there in the first place. So as soon as they were alerted to that, they removed them anyway. And they probably would have gotten removed if on their own had no one brought it up because they weren't supposed to be there in the first place. So,
And see, why isn't that in the media? Because that side of the story isn't told at all.
yeah. I told that side of the story, but that side isn't as glamorous, right? That's not as shocking or
Another bill that you worked on was the Huntersville ocular melanoma study, and that's has been a big issue in our area. I haven't heard anything recently about that.
That's right.
And what is the current? Where are we in terms of ocular melanoma here in Huntersville? Where are we on that issue?
Yeah, so we haven't had that continuing rise of incidences of that, but Senator Marcus and I worked to get some funding to the town of Huntersville, and then she worked really hard to get ocular melanoma entered into the cancer consortium as an issue so that the state would study it, because that's really where we need to focus that. But if any issues are continuing to come up, we'll make sure that we're involved and we'll push that back up to the state. But right now, I think we've leveled off, as far as I know. We've discussed this.
No new cases that I'm aware of through Dr. Brennan, who was helping us out. And we used the original funds for some soil testing, et cetera, at various sites, and didn't find anything there. And I think, as the mayor said, ultimately we wanted to push those funds back to the state. They had the resources. We need to track. The key is to try to track where these cases are so that we can find some commonalities.
And then, unfortunately, there weren't enough incidents of ocular melanoma in Huntersville to count as what they call a cluster of cancer. Right. And so that's where we had to get creative and push them over to the Cancer Consortium for them to keep track. And they are currently tracking it. And if anything happens, I'm sure they'll let us know, and we'll make sure and let them know too. And of course, my state legislators, I have their numbers. I'll give them a call too if we need help from them.
Christy, another bill that you sponsored that really caught my attention that I just loved, because I love the title. That doggy in the window is not for lease. That is the short title of the bill. That doggy in the window is not for lease.
Yes.
Explain that bill.
Sure. So Representative Wesley Harris had been contacted by I think a constituent in I think Buncombe County, and that person had kind of fallen prey to a scheme where a dog store, a pet store would lease dogs, versus selling them and adopting, as people were adopting them. So they would lease them, and so the person would have the dog for a period of time, and then they would try and come get the dog and I guess repossess the dog, I guess, for lack of a better word. And so that had been happening for a while over there, and so someone finally got fed up, and so we kind of pitched that bill out there to see if we could do something about it. And I don't think the bill ever went anywhere, but it got attention on the issue and got attention on that pet store. So that's always helpful too.
Health care for working North Carolinians. That was another bill you worked on.
That's Medicaid expansion, which North Carolina finally took the
Finally.
leap into Medicaid expansion, which is really wonderful because that means all those hundreds of thousands of folks that didn't have access to health care now do. And that's a really big issue for me as a cancer survivor. So I was happy that happened in our state, and hopefully people are getting the care they need now.
And it was a couple of dozen bills, but another one that caught my attention was the Teacher Pipeline Development Bill.
Yeah, and that was a bill we were pushing funds towards universities to kind of help get more students interested in the career of public education and education teaching. And so that, especially in minorities, and, that was something we were trying to get folks to get involved in being teachers. We need more teachers over time as our state continues to grow.
You sat on the Agriculture, the Appropriations, the Environment, Judiciary, and Regulatory Reform Committees. Is there anything that you, and I was telling you before we got started, that I can't imagine how frustrating it would be if you're the lone, say, Republican on a Democratic county board, or in the minority in the House or in the Senate in Raleigh. It's got to be terribly frustrating not being able to bring some things forward. Can you talk about some things that were highlights, though, of the time that you spent in Raleigh?
Sure. One of my favorite things was we got to tour Eastern North Carolina and go see all the hog and chicken farms over there and learn about issues that are really relevant to farmers. And that was a lot of fun. That was the Agriculture Committee went as a group. Looking back, the Judiciary Committee was where, you establish laws for the state. So that was a great committee to be on, as we've helped to pass the legislation, that allowed for folks to bring back, if they had been sexually abused as a child, they can bring it back past the standard, past the time. And so it made it so they could have more opportunity if folks realized they had been sexually abused as a child to have, recompense on their person who abused them. That was something that was Attorney General is what he is. Josh Stein had put forward, and that was a really great one. It was a bipartisan bill, and we worked really hard together to get that one done. The regulatory reform bill was a lot of it was a lot of fun. I actually, partnered up with a lot of my Republican colleagues on that one because there were issues that would come before us that, really had a great impact on local level. And so we worked together a lot to make sure things passed that should, and things that shouldn't pass didn't pass.
Now, when you're in Raleigh, you had an apartment in Raleigh?
I stayed in the Round Holiday Inn. Yeah, it's the fancy one.
and Anthony and I have been there many, many a time, too, when we were up there in Raleigh.
Yes.
But that's a huge commitment when you decide you're going to go off and serve in the legislature.
It is, yeah. I mean, I loved it. I loved being there. It was a lot of hard work, and being in the minority meant I had to get really creative and forge relationships across the aisle, and I think that's really what makes a great legislator anyway. So things I got done, no one will ever see or know, and I'll never get credit for them, but I'm okay with that. 'Cause good things happened.
I will tell you that as recently as December of 2022, I think you were saying that you were making another run for District 98, and I got to tell you, I was sort of surprised, but I wasn't shocked. And then when I saw you had filed, I said, and I love Dan Boone. He's a great friend of mine, Derek Partee, but I was thinking game over when I saw that filing. We're going to take a break for our sponsors on Town Talk. Please stay with us and come back, and we're going to talk about some commercial activity. Join us. Yeah, I consider Dan Boone and Derek Partee to be two of close friends, business associates. Worked very closely with them over the years, and that filing on that particular day, I'm going like, okay, but what changed your mind? I mean, because obviously the current makeup right now with our former mayor running for the 98 seat, that would have been a very interesting, formidable race. What changed your mind on that?
We know working at the elementary school that's like a block away from town hall, I've been able to use some of those resources I had in Raleigh to help families there, and seeing that, instant help go into place for folks really pushed me to run for mayor, because I knew I could do the same thing as mayor and I can even do more. And so, I'm really enjoying being local and taking care of local families and local issues. And I really don't miss driving to Raleigh and staying in that round Holiday Inn. I'm not going to lie. And so, getting to be closer to home and take care of my little families around town of Huntersville, that's pretty great.
Those of you who are streaming with us, again, we stream live on Facebook and Twitter, and see, I still say Twitter. I can't get the X thing. LinkedIn, YouTube, and all of our social media sites. I use this opportunity sometimes to talk about Chamber of Commerce activities, and I talked about the David Dowdy program tomorrow at the Chamber. In February 20th, from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, 3:30 to 5 o'clock, Jamie Lane with the EDC is going to be talking about Canva, Design Like a Boss, Master Canva. And again, she does a lot of different things that she puts out, helping to market the EDC. And I've seen so much that she's done. I'm going like, how did you learn to do that? She said, I've been doing it for a long time. And I said, can you teach some of us how to do that? So she's going to be at the Chamber, again, Tuesday, February 20th, 3:30 to 5, Design Like a Boss, Master Canva. This coming Friday, we have our Focus Friday, where we have Senator Sawyer and Representative Bradford. Now, Senator Sawyer is going to be in person. Representative Bradford is going to be joining us via Zoom. He's traveling. He's running for a congressional seat, so he's not going to be in person, but it is both an in-person and virtual event. We reached out to Senator Marcus, who is not going to be able to be with us. She is running for the Commissioner of Insurance. So she's traveling around the state too, and so she's not going to be able to join us. But this coming Friday, 8:30 to 9:30, we'll be at the Chamber of Commerce. We encourage anybody who wants to come join us at the Chamber. And Vicki is the chair of Transportation. So we're going to be asking her about a number of those things. Anthony, I got a question for you. I was driving down the road just a couple of days ago, and we had said all along that tractor trailers, could not use the toll lanes. Now, I know this isn't a town of Huntersville issue. It is not something that comes before the town manager. But tractor trailers couldn't use the toll lanes specifically because the road beds were not created to sustain tractor trailers.
Yep.
I'm watching a tractor trailer go down the road, and I know that's not something you guys enforce, but
Were they delivering something to town hall?
I don't know. We're going back live in about 15 seconds, so I'll leave you with that thought. Thank you, Anthony.
The toll lanes, one of my favorite subjects.
Lake Norman Chamber President Bill Russell on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC. Local starts here.
Welcome back to Town Talk. I'm your host, Bill Russell. I am here with Mayor Christy Clark and Anthony Roberts. He is the town manager for the town of Huntersville, formerly with the town of Cornelius. How many years were you the town manager of Cornelius?
I guess if you count assistant and manager.
Yeah, you were both, yeah.
18 years, I guess it would be.
Okay.
17, 18, I lose track.
17 or 18 years. And then you've now been here for how long?
Going on 6 years.
Going on 6 years. And
Getting old.
And they can't have him back.
aren't we both, though? Aren't we both? While we were on break, we were talking to Christy about you were originally thinking about going back after the 98 seat, and you decided to, hey, look, I'm gonna focus my attention here because you live here. How long have you lived in Huntersville?
13 years.
13 years.
Well, soon to be 14 years, yeah.
14 years.
Mm-hmm.
Before we started the show, we were talking about the race in Cornelius, Davidson, Huntersville. It's a nonpartisan race. So you don't file as Democrat or Republican. There's no primaries. There's no wards. It's simply, at-large seats. And we had 6 Democrats run for commissioner, and we had 2 Republican men running for mayor, and then Christy as a Democrat. So clean sweep. Mayor, all commissioners are Democrats. Although at the end of the day, it's not a partisan position. But I was talking earlier. John Anarella, I think, former town mayor, He, I think, was a former Mecklenburg County chair of the Republican Party. But it's interesting that we have that going on. First off, I thought the Democrats did a fantastic job of getting out there and messaging. The communications, the things going out in the mail, and then comporting themselves in terms of the forum, the answers, going in front of the folks and getting the message out. And so the messaging was just fantastic.
Yeah, we were pretty well organized, and we're pretty, still are, and hopefully we'll stay that way for a long time, cohesive group of folks who, have the same vision and views, and if we disagreed about something, we negotiated out until we got down to what we could all agree on, and went out there and spread the message. So.
Now, Nick Walsh is a former town board member, so he had served, I think, 2 terms before?
I think so.
2 terms. You had prior experience in the NCGA, but not on a town level, but you had 5 newcomers for the board from a staff position, from a town manager, because I'm not sure in any of your previous boards you had quite that level of turnover. Talk about that, Anthony.
I haven't. Actually, you wonder when you get, 7 new folks in, the mayor and new board members. I will say, though, with the mayor and new board, communication from day one has been superb amongst themselves and with staff. So that makes a world of difference. I have not had, and as we talk about partisan, nonpartisan, as a city manager, I've always been unaffiliated for a reason, probably because some folks look at R's, D's, et cetera, and I've always been able to work with all of them. Obviously, as you know, in previous roles, probably more majority Republicans versus here this time majority all Democrats, but they're all in it for the same reason. Every board member and mayor, board member, they're in it for the same reason. They, I assume just like anyone else when they run, they want to do good for the town of Huntersville. And so at the end of the day, no matter what's behind the name, that's what they're trying to achieve. And I will say I have been pleasantly surprised with the new group coming in. And as you said, quite a few of them not involved in politics before or any type of politics. The communication has been like no other. So that has made it very easy for staff to get in there and work with them. And they've probably been pushing more than any of them, but from a standpoint of, let's get the goals set, et cetera. So we, last night at the board meeting, went through the goals, and I anticipate adopting those here probably the next meeting or so. But they hit the ground running, which is very seldom you see that. So I'm very pleased.
I had a reporter from the Business Journal actually called me up about 3 weeks ago and asked me about what I thought was going to be happening in the town. And I said, well, given that you had 5 new people, completely newcomers to that type of thing, I think there's going to be more reliance, at least initially, on town staff, particularly your planning staff, and they're going to be looking to you for recommendations. As they continue to get down that path, they'll probably become a little bit more independent-minded and making more of their own decisions. But I think for at least the first 6 months or so, they're going to be looking very strongly to the town staff. Yeah,
and they have. I mean, since day one, we've been communicating. Our first goal is as soon as they get in to educate them as much as possible on all the projects. Projects will started 2 or 3 boards ago, and some of them have been. Main Street started, my understanding, 20 some years ago. So, some of these projects will outlive me and past many board members. So as soon as they get in, is key is education on all things we've got going on. And they're very upfront on what they want to achieve from the get-go, and we start moving down that path. So,
and the other thing, when we had the forums for the Chamber of Commerce, it seemed that most of them were very pro-business, and you yourself were recently quoted. I saw it somewhere that you said Huntersville's open for business.
It is, yeah. That's right.
So I want to point to a 2018 study from Lake Norman Economic Development from UNC Charlotte Urban Institute said that 71% of taxable real property value was residential property, 29% commercial. And Amanda Dumas, who's new commissioner, she pointed that out and said, we can't be that reliant, and that we've got to be looking at a better balance and looking at ways to focus on opportunities to increase that tax revenue from a commercial standpoint. And you too have talked about how we have to look at the revitalization of the downtown district. Some of that's already started with North State, which is a $60 million investment into downtown. I want to talk a little bit about that. Where is that project? And then the other key component to downtown is Town Hall. And I want to talk about Town Hall next. But first off, where is the North State project at?
So I'll comment on that one. And so North State project, as you see, it's maybe it's on floor 4 now, as you see construction going on. They're moving. My understanding is that you will see actual people in the building, living in the building by the end of 25. Probably more like 24 is my understanding so far. With that project, as you said, $60 million worth of investment. Also with that, not only is the residential, but the commercial component. And that's the key as we continue to build downtown. Across the street, I don't know if you visited yet, but probably a $5 million investment brewery, which used to be an old police station, converted to a brewery, and it surely doesn't look like a police station anymore. And they've really invested a ton of money in downtown, and that's what we want to continue to see in downtown.
Unless this has changed, 200 residential units and then the ground floor retail. And how many square feet is that retail?
It's roughly 10 to 12,000 square feet.
Town Hall, and this is gone back and forth and back and forth. And the last I heard, we were going to continue to have Town Hall and punch the back out and expand it that way, or what's going to happen with Town Hall?
Excuse me, maybe the mayor should take this one.
Well, I guess not punch the back out, but we have plans to build a whole new building right there. And the square footage, I always forget the number, but
54,000 square feet.
54,000 square feet to house all of our staff and everybody in one place, and have a bigger chamber for ourselves, and to meet and invite more folks from the community can join us for our board meetings, and be comfortable and not crammed in or having standing room only type situations.
So we're going to build a new building.
That's the plan.
Yes, sir.
And where will that go?
Right behind the existing town hall. 4 stories, right behind
where John Foster's in the old Napa Auto Parts.
And the courtyard in between. So if you go out the back door, which is not much to see, a little small courtyard will be expanded, and then there'll be a 4-story building right behind that.
Yep.
I have to tell you, in 1997, when Ed Humphreys, who was the town manager at the time, and Randy Quillen took me down, and they showed me in 1997, this is where we're going to put Town Hall, the current Town Hall. I thought then, that was 26 years ago, I said, this is too small. And they said, no, it's much bigger than what you think. And no, it's too small.
It's too small.
When we had when you guys came into office at that particular one in December, that meeting, people were sitting out in the foyer because we didn't have enough room. I actually stayed through your swearing in, but then I left because it was just, I couldn't even see.
Right.
There was that many people there and crowded into Town Hall.
Sure.
It's like that all the time now with so much business going on in town. So it's constantly overcrowded.
Yeah, anytime there's a big issue or, a big subject, that room, the front room where the chambers fills up, and then people extend out into the lobby. So thank goodness for streaming so people can join us from there.
Got 60 seconds before we go to a break. Joey Logano, a project that was being done by Trinell, which is going to be at the intersection of Hambright and Mount Holly, Huntersville Road. That's a 70-acre mixed-use project. Where is that in terms of development?
Construction is supposed to start 2024, towards the end of 2024. That is a lot of commercial, retail, industrial, flex space, and also single family, multifamily, et cetera.
Yeah, I know they're working through getting all their I's dotted and T's crossed to get everything ready so that they can get underway and break ground.
When we come back, I want to talk about Burkdale Place and Burkdale, and then I want to talk about some transportation improvement projects. We have Mayor Christy Clark here and Anthony Roberts, our town manager. Stay with us on Town Talk. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with more.
Those of you who are streaming with us on Facebook, we're going to talk about some Chamber of Commerce projects again. We talked about in the last segment our Focus Friday, which is coming up on this coming Friday. We have a brand new public policy chair, Beth Cashin, is our public policy chair. Jeff Tart is now the chair of the Chamber of Commerce. Beth is a former commissioner with the town of Davidson. You worked with her when you were in Raleigh. But Beth and I are going to be working together, putting together some of those programs. Actually, Beth's putting them together. Our February 16th program is going to be focusing on Town Hall, where we have our 3 mayors coming to speak to us. So we've got Rusty and Woody, and they're going to be joining you, Christy, and we're going to talk about what's going on. Again, that's 8:30 to 9:30. That will be in person. But for those of you who cannot attend, we will have a virtual component to that as well. March 15th, 8:30 to 9:30. Beth wanted to keep it local. One of the things that Jeff did, because he had ties in with the legislature, we had a whole bunch of federal and state folks that we tapped. But Beth wants to bring it down to a more local level. So March 15th, we're going to have a focus on our local police department. So we've got our police chiefs that are going to be with us March 15th, 8:30 to 9:30. Thursday, February 15th, one of the things that we do, when we were talking about schools a little while ago, for the last, 6 or 7 years, we have recognized the outstanding educators. And so we're going to have a program on February 15th where we recognize the outstanding educator for Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, the outstanding educator for the charter schools, and then also for our private schools. And again, we have a committee that looks at those people. And it's very hard to pick one teacher. And I actually had a school, I remember last year, that said, all of our teachers are outstanding and we simply won't pick one. Okay, well, that's fine. But we do want to recognize those individuals. We have Chris Marsicano, who is the Assistant Professor of Educational Studies and Public Policy at Davidson College. He's going to be our keynote speaker. So welcome, Chris. He is the founding director of Crisis Initiative at Davidson College. Graduate of Davidson, and he earned his PhD from Vanderbilt and holds a Master of Public Policy from Duke University. So got a lot of accolades. $35, and you can register that online. Those of you who are streaming with us, we're going back live in about 10 seconds.
And click on events to submit your event today.
Call now to speak with Lake Norman Chamber President Bill Russell at 844-Studio 4. It's Town Talk on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
And we're back to Town Talk. I'm your host, Bill Russell. I'm here with Mayor Christy Clark and Anthony Roberts, our town manager. I want to talk, before we get into transportation projects, Burkdale Place. I think that was approved last year. So that's moving forward. That's in front of Burkdale. They've got a planned multi-use pedestrian family, 140-room hotel coming. What can you tell us about Burkdale Place?
Mary,
Yeah, I think we all just saw they announced Napa at Providence. The restaurant is going to be there as well. So I think I've already heard from some friends and family. They're pretty excited about that happening. So I think bringing that fresh restaurant to Huntersville will be wonderful.
Anthony, last year the board, Burkdale with North American Properties, put forward a plan to expand and do some things with Phase 2. That didn't make it through the town board. It's likely coming up again before the board, so Christy can't comment on that. I had the opportunity, and I think you had the opportunity, to go down to Alpharetta, Georgia, to Avalon, which was sort of the model for what they wanted to do. And the Chamber of Commerce, we came out in support of that. I think that is a fantastic project. I was talking to folks last week that Christmas time, I went to Burkdale, went over to Kilwins, got my fudge, sat down, ate some of the fudge, watching the kids ice skate, and not just kids, the adults and the folks ice skating around there, then the Santa Claus, and some of the things that were being planned there that people just couldn't see during the last time it came before the board is now done. And so they made some improvements already and doing a great job over there with Burkdale. So we'll wait and see what that comes out in terms of your board several months from now. I want to talk about transportation because you can't go anywhere in Huntersville without really running into some orange barrels out there. 115, I saw that a lot of that's been done. We've got some new roundabouts that are in place down there at Mount Holly, Huntersville Road, where I go, and over at the 7-Eleven. So we've got that. Been some widening taking place at 115. 21, a lot of construction going on at 21 and at Gilead. And then Sanford Road. They hadn't started anything there, but it's coming down the pike. What can you tell us about some of these projects that have wrapped and those that are going to be taking place, Mayor?
Yeah, so we have our 21 in Gilead is underway and expected completion hopefully in 2025, but possibly 2026. I think it does depend on the weather, right? Gilead and I-77 interchange is underway. Of course, 73 widening is going to be a big project, and the right-of-way acquisition is going on right now. They're working on that. Let's see, what else do we have? 73 and I-77 exchange also in works. And Gilead Road from the post office to 115 is something we're talking about. DOT wants to widen it. The town's not so much a big fan of that. And so we're trying to figure out if there's a compromise in there somewhere.
Yeah, and I think the mayor is right. I mean, there's a lot of barrels in Huntersville right now, but there's a lot of projects that are in the works. You got to buy a right of way, you got to engineer it, you got to move utilities and those kind of things. So 73, all of 73 pretty much is already in right of way acquisition. What I would say is construction will probably be, when we say 26, 27, that would be towards the end of 26, probably beginning of 27 on those various legs of 73. And then the interchange itself is going to be revamped. That's probably 27, 28 timeframe. So if you're concerned about orange barrels right now, maybe you need to invest in orange barrels because there's going to be more orange barrels. And it's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
It's a very good thing for development and all the different projects that we've got coming to town that's already under construction. But
Well, we know relief is on its way. I mean, that's the whole thing. And, it had to happen. I was talking to Justin this morning that, growth is inevitable. It's occurring. It's coming our way. In 1990, we had 3,000 people. Today, we are approaching, 70,000 people?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Close to it. So tremendous amount of growth is coming to Huntersville. It will continue to come. And what you guys as elected officials and you as staff and we as the business community, we have to make sure that we're putting things in place to meet those needs that we're going to have.
That's right.
When we're talking about some of the transportation plans, one of the other things I wanted to talk about was the bond package that was recently approved. We had a $50 million transportation bond, $8 million parks and recreation bond. If we had not been able to achieve that, and I think, what did it pass by, 70%? What was it?
Yep, I think Mayor probably knows the numbers better than me.
Yep, 77% of voters.
77%.
Which we were the highest turnout for our bonds in the state of any municipality. So we did a good job getting the message out.
That was one of the things that we kind of heard throughout all of the candidates. I don't recall a single candidate saying they didn't approve the transportation bonds, because if we had not approved those, these projects we're talking about would have stopped.
Very well. We would have had to make, the new board when they came in would have had to make some decisions, because you got, as we talked about earlier, you got projects in various stages from right away, that costs money, to design, et cetera. So all those different phases continue to add up. And it's not good when you stop a project after you spent millions upon millions of dollars. So.
Yep.
A thing that you had to tackle right off the bat, that was a huge issue that kind of got booted on down the road, was the fire department. And making sure that we paid some of those officers and we were able to bring in, we were able to compete. And at the end of the day, we have to make sure that if there's one thing that people expect for their taxes, it's being protected by the police department and the fire department. But talk about what the decision you made with the fire department.
Sure. If you look around Huntersville, it's growing rapidly and there's a lot of places to protect, but we also were competing with our surrounding fire departments for staff to come to Huntersville, and they just weren't going to do it anymore. They had other opportunities for them that were more balanced, and they could balance their family and work life better than adding on this part-time volunteer situation. And the chief came to the town and expressed his concern and need for us to make a change. And then it turns out we are one of the only municipalities of our size left in the state who hadn't created a municipal fire department. So as we start putting those pieces together, it makes sense. If we would have maintained our other way of doing it, we had a risk of getting in the weeds of this issue is dropping our ISO rating for our fire department, which would have been bad for everybody in Huntersville, because that would have made all of our homeowners insurance have to go up, because our ISO fire department rating had gone down. And so this will prevent that from happening, and that'll at least, kind of balance out with what's happening with the current request requests from insurance companies and the insurance commission.
Did I read it was funding 14 officers? Is that what I read?
18 actually. 18
officers.
officers and the chief, so
and the
19
chief.
total.
Mm-hmm.
Another big thing, we just recently saw the retirement of Jack Semino. I was, on a selfish note, I was on the original committee that helped pick Jack a long time ago. He has been an outstanding planning director. Christy, he was somebody that could go head to head and talk with the commercial folks, but he could also sit down with Farmer Brown and explain to Farmer Brown why he wasn't in compliance and the things that he needed to do or she needed to do to make sure that they could move their plans forward. So outstanding planning director. But Jack Semino stepping down, Brian Richards coming on board, Chief Vince Hoyle stepping down, and Major Bear Graham now the police chief. So you've had some turnover in staff, and of course they had great mentors. They've been moved along, and so you got that. But you've got some wonderful people in place: Janet Pearson, Bobby Williams, Jackie Huffman. Jackie, the preeminent, you stole her from Cornelius and brought her with you, but talk about your staff.
Well, I'm only as good as my staff. So, as you probably follow major companies, what makes them good is the staff, and what makes Huntersville great is the staff. And so I've always been able to surround myself with much more intelligent people than me. So that's what I try to do. And the people you mentioned, Jack Semino, Vince Hoyle, I mean, they're hard to replace.
Sure.
But they have tutored the individuals underneath them, and it was a easy pick to pick the gentleman underneath of both of them. But missed both of those guys. Love to have them. They can only work so long. I think Jack was seemed like 40 years, and Vince was probably up there 35 or 40 years, and so eventually they probably need to retire. And if I could bring Jack back on a part-time basis, I'm gonna try to help out. But they have mentored the people underneath them well, so we will be in great hands. Brian will do an exceptional job, and Major Graham's been doing it forever too. He'll do an exceptional job. And as far as Jackie, I don't need to say anything about her. She is obviously, I think I've spent most of my life with her, more time with my wife, maybe her second. But just from her work, I mean, she's unbelievable. And Bobby, bringing him back, he worked in Huntersville some years ago, and bringing him back was a great plug and play.
Sure.
So great staff.
Yeah, I think we have probably the best staff of any municipality up here in North Meck, and they're great partners to the town board and to me as well to help us as all these projects get moving forward. We're a big team now, and it's a really good place to be.
Christy, we talk a lot about the 2040 plan, which is your Bible for development. What is the 2040 plan for people who may not know what we're talking about?
Yeah, the 2040 plan is the roadmap or the guide about how we want Huntersville to grow and develop along the way. And it just shows us like where we should put and focus our energies and efforts. And so, 115 is and 73 are big business corridors. And then the farther you get out from there, becomes more rural and more residential and more focused on kind of family life as we go away from there. That's kind of the easy way to look, but it has plans for everything from roads to environments to greenways to anything you can think of is in there. Our downtown is part of it, even though it has a separate downtown plan too. So it's our roadmap.
We've got about 45 seconds left. Are there any positions that you haven't filled in terms of citizen involvement?
We have a lot of advisory boards. We actually just started one for environmental sustainability, and we're accepting applications for that one. But of course, if anyone's interested in volunteering with the town, they should go ahead and fill out an application now, because we will keep their application on file in case we have an unexpected opening.
And they can find that information on the website at huntersville.org.
Yep, huntersville.org. And a new website is launching on January 31st. We're excited about that, so keep your eye out.
You have been listening to Mayor Christy Clark and Town Manager Anthony Roberts. Thank you both for being here today. If it's Wednesday afternoon, we're talking about our towns on Town Talk, WSIC. We'll see you next week.
The new 105.9, 100.7 WSIC, Statesville, W290DK, Mooresville.